So in the previous video, we have seen a basic idea about hydrological cycle, the basic terms for evaporation, precipitation up to the infiltration. So in this video now, we are going to write down the things which we have seen in the previous video. Okay. So point by point, we'll start writing. So about the hydrological cycle, so give the heading hydrological cycle. So in this, so the first process is it is a sun driven process. It is a sun driven process. Okay. To this process, there is no starting or end. So we can assume any point where it is starting, because see, we cannot say that it is starting from the groundwater or it is starting from the precipitation or from evaporation. But generally, in most of the books, it is given that the hydrological process, it starts with the evaporation. So this is the first process of hydrological cycle. Now, so water in the oceans, water in oceans evaporate. Okay, so how they evaporate? Due to solar radiation, due to solar radiation. So the energy which is given by sun. So this water vapor, so the water turns into water vapor, and this water vapor turns into clouds. Okay, and these clouds, then this gives precipitation. So this is what we have seen. Now there are many forms of precipitation. Okay, so what are the forms of precipitation? So the general form that we know is a rain, okay, or rainfall. So there is something which is called as drizzle also, that is very light rain, which we call it as drizzle. Then snowfall is also one of the form of precipitation. Then we have sleet, and then we have hail. Okay, so these are the various forms of precipitation. Now, so during precipitation, part of it gets evaporated. Okay, so certain part is lost during the precipitation also. So another part gets intercepted. It gets intercepted by vegetation. Okay, so that process we have seen here, interception. So certain portion of the precipitation, it is taken by the leaf foliages, so that we call it as interception. Okay, then a portion of water gets infiltrated some infiltrated water. So see here, pay attention, certain portion is infiltrated. Okay, out of this infiltration, some water it meets the groundwater, and some water it flows horizontally, that we call it as interflow. So the portion of water which is going and meeting the groundwater, this is called as percolation. Okay, so this is percolation and this is interflow. So some infiltrated water gets interflow, converted into interflow, and certain portion is converted into percolation. Percolated water meets groundwater. Okay, this groundwater is also called as base flow. So pay attention to these new words. Okay, so these are new things which are going to be repeated many times in the further lectures. So many times now base flow will be used, so don't get confused. What is base flow? Base flow is nothing but the flow of groundwater only. Okay, now when the soil gets saturated, what is the meaning of saturated? It is getting completely filled with water. Okay, the pores which are present in the soil, it is getting completely filled with water. Such soil is called as saturated. So when the soils get saturated, the rate of precipitation is greater than a rate of infiltration. That means the rate with which the water is falling on the soil, that rate is more than the rate at which the water is going inside the soil. So in this case, what happens? Overland flow or runoff takes place. So overland flow, or what we call it as a runoff, starts. Okay, so these are all the things that we have discussed. Now some basic definitions will write it. So the first definition is of evaporation. Evaporation. So what is evaporation? It is the transfer of water from liquid state to gaseous state, or we can say conversion of a liquid into gaseous state. So this is evaporation. Now second heading is precipitation. Precipitation. So what is the meaning of precipitation? So it is the deposition of water on earth's surface. So it is deposition of water on earth's surface. What are the various forms of precipitation? Snow, hail, sleet, rainfall and drizzle. Now the next one is interception. Interception. So it is nothing but it is the short term retention of rainfall, or we can say a retention of rainfall by vegetation. In this vegetation we can say it as foliage. So what is the meaning of foliage? It is the meaning that collection of all the leaves which are present. So it is a collective effect. Now, so after infiltration, after interception, let's give the new heading, that is infiltration. So what is infiltration? It is the movement of water into the soil, or we can say movement of water into the soil. Now the second one, so this is generally getting, or we can say many times we are getting confused in this, or it can be asked in the interviews also, what is the difference between infiltration and percolation? So infiltration means movement of water into the soil. Okay, now once the water has been infiltrated into the soil, then the water further moves below from one soil layer to another soil layer. That movement of water from one soil layer to another soil layer, or the lower soil layer, it is called as percolation. So of water movement of water from one soil layer one soil layer to another soil layer below it is called as percolation. Okay, so you see this diagram. Initially the water has entered into the soil. Okay, so it has entered here. So this is soil. So first it has entered. The first step is infiltration. After infiltration it is getting to the next layer of soil, hence it is percolation. Okay, now the next one is transpiration. So this is a process, we can say, in which generally occurs during photosynthesis. Okay, so it occurs during photosynthesis process. So what happens in this, the soil moisture which is present, or we can say the moisture which is present in the soil, it is taken by the plants and it is discharged into the atmosphere through the leaves during the photosynthesis process. Okay, so that utilization of moisture from the soil, it comes under this transpiration. This transpiration and evaporation, these are sometimes clubbed together, and together the name is given as evapotranspiration. Okay, now the last one, that is runoff. So runoff is nothing but it is a volume of water drained by a river, drained by a river at the outlet. See, the definition is saying that whatever the volume which is given by the river at the outlet, that is called as runoff. But if you want to understand it conceptually, try to come back to this main diagram. So in this diagram you can see that when this infiltration rate is less as compared to the rate of, or we can say intensity of rainfall or rate of rainfall, then the water does not infiltrate into the ground and it starts flowing on the surface of earth, or we can say it starts flowing on the soil. This water which is flowing on the soil, this this flow is called as runoff or overland flow. Okay, so with this now we have seen all the definitions here. Now the remaining things will start from the next lecture.